Hello, everyone. This is Positive News with you, and today is another blissful and amazing day where I go further back in time. That seems to be the theme, isn't it? And get to talk to one of my good buddies, Caleb Pahl. It's almost 20 years ago that we went to high school together. Back in high school, we all call this guy Special K. Now, not only because Caleb's the valedictorian of our class, but he was also the varsity at multiple sports, the only guy that could meet me at par at ping pong. Now, I was the king. I could be anybody. My ride and die tennis doubles partner. This guy has a very calm, special ability to befriend and connect with pretty much any human being walking on the face of this earth. I tell you. Now, I have nothing but admiration, respect, and would often reminisce the time when we went to play golf. Remember that, Caleb? He is happily married for 10 years now with 3 wonderful children. The last 4 years, he's been living in Panama City, teaching social studies and advanced U.S. history at an international middle school. He continues to imbue fitness and health by investing time to play sports, and most definitely is a family man that loves to spend time with his family at the beach. Now, today is a bit special, okay? As we'll go a little deeper into the areas of belief and faith, where Caleb will share with us how the love he has for his faith has really transformed him to becoming a better man, a better father, just a better human being. Now, I want to highly note that this interview with Caleb is not about proselytizing or establishing religion to influence viewers. No, it is merely telling a story of a man imbuing his definition of positivity into his life so that his pursuit of happiness, joy, compassion is that much closer to him, his family, and to the people he cares about. I encourage everyone viewing to look behind the lenses that we have on so that we can see the true intent and take goodness of his stories to heart without the confusion of how that goodness is defined. And in this case, by the word faith. Without further ado, Caleb, my man, are you there? Let's talk.
Yeah.
I'll give it a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go for it, Caleb.
Hey, Van, thank you so much for having me on your YouTube channel. I have not talked to you really in a long time. We kind of caught up a little bit when you invited me onto the program, but it's a blessing to be here to connect with you. And I know that part of what you're doing is trying to share positive stories in the midst of all of the negative stories that we're constantly hearing today with the coronavirus pandemic and different things. And so I appreciate that, and I think it is something that's really necessary. I'm going to share some of my own story, my own life, and specifically just how God has really made such a difference in my life. And I think it's one of the reasons why for me, this pandemic has it's done a lot of different things in my life and my family, but definitely has not taken away my joy. It has not taken away the positivity that I have, simply because I'm trusting and believing that God is still good and God is still faithful despite all of the different challenges that we see in the world today. And I think a lot of it, sometimes it's one thing to maybe hear about someone's story, or to hear, you could say, if you attend a church or a religious place, to kind of like be in that environment or hear other people talking about it. But when you yourself have those experiences, I think that's when it really becomes real. And one of the things I really value is I have my father-in-law is a pastor. So he's a businessman, but he's also the pastor of a church here in Panama City. And one of the things that I really love about him, have always loved about him since the time I met him, is that he's the type of person that whatever he shares about, it's real things that he himself has experienced. Like, wow. He's not just sharing like theoretical concepts about the Bible or like theoretical concepts about God or theology, but he's really sharing like actual stories of how God literally transformed his life,
Wow.
restored his marriage that was completely broken,
Wow.
and yeah, just like completely, basically took him out of a situation that was really bad in terms of where his family was at and just his own just personal habits and certain things that he was involved with.
Wow.
And brought him to a place now where he has 3 beautiful daughters. My wife is the oldest of 3, and
Wow.
now I have 3 kids with 3 grandchildren. So one of the things that I really value and I'm so grateful for is just the, I could say, like, spiritual inheritance that I have. That's the inheritance that I kind of married into with my wife, but I'm also really thankful for my own parents and the way that they always modeled a Christianity or a faith that was practical, that actually cared for the poor and was concerned about people that were at risk. And that I grew up, it was normal for us to like pick up hitchhikers on the side of
Wow.
the road. It was normal for us to have people living in our home, like whether it be a homeless person or people in our family who had substance abuse issues and needed somewhere to stay, just different situations
Right.
that like for me was pretty normal, like growing up. So I really knew that like my parents' belief and their faith was something that was real, that really like impacted their lives. And yeah.
Can I add something? I'm just recalling back in high school, Caleb, where we did many projects together, and when I would come over to your home, and Mr. and Mrs. Pahl was always opening their arms. I remember a big hug. That's the first thing I remember. Stepping into the door was pizza on the table for the kids to do their projects and a big hug. So I do want to do a shout out. I'm sure Mom and Dad is seeing this. Mrs. Pahl, Mr. and Mrs. Pahl, I love y'all. Thank you so much. Yeah, we are men now, me and Caleb. We're doing our thing now. But yeah, Caleb, go on. I'm sorry. I just had to.
Yeah, no problem. That's awesome that you have those memories. Yeah, and so I think that my own faith was certainly shaped by my parents, but definitely as I grew older and in high school and then in college, it kind of like it's a progressive thing where you have to choose and decide for yourself, like, what are you going to believe and what are you going to follow, you know what I mean? Because at a certain point, you're no longer under the rules or the covering or whatever of your parents, and you have to make those decisions for yourself. So one of the places where it really got real for me, like real, was more after college, because I went to college at Trinity International University, which is a Christian school that it was 45 minutes away from where my parents were living. So I was super close to home. I was in a Christian environment for the most part. But then after college, I actually wanted to join the Peace Corps. I don't know if you know this, man, but I had an interview with the Peace Corps. I was accepted into the Peace Corps.
What?
Yes, this was.
You didn't tell me
this. This was. I want to say maybe like April or May of my senior year. So I graduated in 3 years thanks to all like the AP tests and club tests and stuff.
But just want to side talk. Peace Corps. What? We would have been Peace Corps buddies.
Maybe, yeah. I didn't end up serving. I didn't get to that part of the story, but.
Oh yeah. I'm curious to hear about that. Okay. Okay. I think they went upstairs. Okay. No. So Peace Corps, Caleb. Wow. Tell me more.
Yeah. So it was my last year of college, and I was considering what I wanted to do after, and I really wanted to travel. Like that was one thing that I knew I wanted to do, and I thought the Peace Corps would be a really cool opportunity to do that and just go to another place and serve and just learn about a new culture. And so I went through a process of interviews, and then they basically told me I had been accepted, and they said most likely like you're gonna be placed somewhere in Africa. It's like they didn't tell me the specific country,
right?
But then they were like, well, you're not going to be able to be placed or to be able to go until maybe like April of next year. So literally it was almost like a year. It was almost like a year that I was going to have to wait, because this was maybe like May of my senior year. And so I was like, well, what do I do like for this whole year? And I was just like trying to wrap my mind around that. And I was like, I really don't want to just like kind of like be on hold for that time, and then having to like plan for that. And so my wife, at the time we were not dating, so it's a long story, but we we dated for a year, like my second year of college we dated, and then we broke up my last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were not dating at the time, but she was doing an internship with this organization that helps to send like Christian professionals to serve in other countries, and using like
Wow.
the skills that they have, or the, you know, the training that they have to just go to those places and serve the people in the countries. And so um, she found out about an opportunity in Kazakhstan and like sent it to me. And so like I got this thing and I was like, I had never even really heard of Kazakhstan. I didn't know anything about it, but I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. So I started to pursue it. Ended up doing like a quick like ESL certification thing through Oxford seminars, and then got connected with a person living there.
Wow.
And yeah, got a job offer and decided to go. So instead of doing the Peace Corps, I went to Kazakhstan to teach English, and I went for 1 year. And that, like I said, that year for me, I'd say was really like I had been really strong in my faith. Like, especially one thing I left out of my story is that when I was about 13 years old, my 8th grade year, my family went to the Dominican Republic with another family that, you know, the Ballantyne family. And you know, that year really just impacted me in big ways, because I had never really lived outside the country. And so just learning Spanish, being exposed to like a third world country, and also like just having the sense of like that the church, or like the, was so much bigger than like just what I knew in the United States, but like included, you know, all these different cultures and all these different peoples, and to experience and to really believe that God had a purpose for my life, or that God, you know, like had, that he wanted to use me in some way in what he was doing in the world. And so that really happened in my 8th grade year. That was when a major shift happened just in my own life and everything. But then, like I said, I was still, again, living with my parents, you know, doing all the stuff that you do.
Right.
And so that's why I say, when Kazakhstan, after college, and I moved, like, you know, all the way across the world for a year, that's when like it really, in many ways, became real, in the sense that like I literally had like total freedom.
Wow.
Like no one was watching, you know, I had my own apartment, like could do whatever I wanted. And there was like, so it was really like you could say just like a time for me to really decide, you know, like how I wanted to live, what I wanted to base my life on. And one of the things that I learned during that time is just the incredible way that God like provided me with community, with other people, because obviously that was one of my fears, just like going so far. It's like being isolated, like not understanding the language or the culture, but just connecting really quickly with like people that were English speakers and from all over the world, many different countries in Asia, South Africa, the UK, just different people that were in the city where I was. And just feeling like God was like taking care of me, providing for those needs that I needed. I went through some difficult experiences too. It's not like it was all easy, you know?
Right.
But definitely was like, just had this sense of like God's protection, and just like, so it was a really cool experience.
So Caleb, like as you went through your experience with Kazakhstan and there, and then coming back home, and from there on, were you tested? Did you feel tested or challenged on your faith as you go on with life, and you know, family, and having kids now, and there's certain, you know, there's just a lot of things happening, and amidst what's going on now, have you ever felt challenged? And I'm sure your faith has grown stronger to help overcome that, but just curious about that along the way.
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely have faced challenges in my faith. I think it's been hard when I've had friends or even family members that like question, or, you know, would maybe like choose to kind of like go a different path that I was going, you know. And so kind of like dealing with that, and like trying to like interact with them, questioning in my own heart, like, am I just being like too judgmental or something? You know, it's like, I feel like there's a thing where like sometimes I don't know, I guess as humans, we have the tendency, you know, to always be kind of like comparing ourselves to other people. But I mean, honestly, I have to say, like, I feel like for the most part, like my faith has been strengthened over time. I think just with my wife, and then the different experiences that we've had, like just seeing like God's faithfulness, and then seeing and being like just exposed to different environments that were new to me. Like after we got married, we went to a church in Iowa. We lived in Iowa for 6 years after we got married.
Wow. Oh yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just like in the middle of the state, and went to a church that was very different from like what I had been used to growing up. And so it kind of challenged me in different ways. But I think also helped me to grow and helped me to evaluate like my beliefs and different things, and which was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways like helped to prepare me for where I'm at now, and where like being in Latin America and just the place that we are now was a helpful thing.
Oh, thank you, Caleb. And I just want to just kind of follow up just a little bit with the word growth and how your faith has grown. I'm just curious on how that kind of process works. It may sound a little bit interesting, but just curious on that. And I guess through your life experience, your faith has grown, being tested, and then you overcome it, so it's grown that way. So maybe what I'm trying to say is, as your faith has grown, what would be your message for the people and when they have lost belief or in themselves and seeing things, what's happening out there and all that? What's your message to stay positive? What's your message to just to hang in there? I'm just curious to the people watching this interview.
Yeah, I would say that the circumstances around us we can't allow those things to determine our own happiness or our own joy, but that ultimately, like, my confidence and my trust in the midst of this pandemic has really been that God is good and that God is in control, that God is going to use the difficult things that happen in my life and in the world. He's going to use those things to we could say like purify or refine like who I am. And I think that's a big part of what this pandemic has been. It's been a real like shaking, we could say, where like a lot of systems, financial systems, just the normal routines that we have, the different industries, and in so many ways, like everything's been shaken, everything's been kind of like thrown off, so like all of our plans and things that we were hoping to do like have been kind of like shut down, and obviously everyone's experiencing it in different ways. Some people have lost their job and it's been like very difficult.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's financially. So there's all sorts of different like things that are going on. But like I said, I think what I would say is just to encourage people to look beyond that, to see that, God is faithful, that he's good, that he has a plan in everything, that he wants to use everything that we experience for our good. And ultimately, like, he wants to use that to draw us to a place of more dependency on him, and to a place of understanding that we don't have all the answers, that we that in ourselves, like we don't have all the power or control over everything, so a little bit of like maybe giving up control or not feeling like we have to have it all figured out, because that's part of the thing. It's just everyone's like, okay, what's the future? How does this end? Like in Panama, like it's been crazy how restrictive it's been. I mean, literally, like you're not allowed to leave your house.
Wow.
If you're a man, it's like only certain days of the week. They're just now starting to remove some of those restrictions. So, but it has been like very, very strict, like very restrictive. Like there are no schools that are meeting face to face right now. Like all schools in the entire country are virtual. Yeah.
Wow.
There's different things like that where it's like completely like very strict precautions. But that's what I say is like, so many people are like worried and then concerned about the future. But that's the thing where for me, like if you have a faith and you have an understanding of a God who is good, who's all powerful and all knowing, it helps to be able to trust him. Okay, I don't understand what the future holds, but God, I'm believing, I'm trusting that like you got this, what's going on, like, and that I can trust that like you have my best interest in mind. It's easy to say that, but when you go through difficult things and maybe people have mistreated you, or all the different things that we go through, that's when
Right.
we started to question, and we started to be like, okay,
Gotcha.
God, like, how could a good God allow so much suffering? How could a
Right.
good God allow, children who are innocent to be abused, and all the different things that we see in our world? And it becomes real easy to like kind of use those things to question God or to even deny the existence of God.
Mm-hmm.
But, and like I said, in my case, I do believe that suffering can be redemptive. Like God is able to
Sure.
bring good things out of suffering. We don't always know why things happen. Can't always explain like, why certain catastrophes happen to different people. Like we don't always
Right.
have all the answers. But believing and understanding that like, the end, like the end of all this, it ends well. Like God is ultimately going to bring justice to the earth. Like we have
Mm-hmm.
something inside of us that cries out for justice, that cries out for
Sure.
like those people who are misusing or mistreating other people to be brought to
Sure.
justice. And we
Sure.
try to do that with our broken systems of justice that we have in the world, and just
Sure.
the different things in some countries and some places are maybe more corrupt than others or whatever. But the
Sure.
ultimately, I believe that like we can trust that God is going to set everything right in the end. Like
Sure.
there will be a time when everyone stands before God. And
Mm-hmm.
so like there will be a time when, true justice will happen. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this to say that it's not escapism. It's not like, oh, we just
Sure.
have to wait. We have to wait for
Right.
heaven. No, like
Right.
we're called to in the place that we live, in the family that we are, the country that we are, to do what we
Sure.
can to bring justice or to act on behalf of other people, to live in a way
Right.
that is sacrificial, in a way that is others centered,
Right.
right? So it's not just about like, oh well, yeah, I'm a Christian, or I have this faith, so I'm good, and I'm but it's like, no, we need to, like what we've been given, like we're blessed to be a blessing. So like anything that
Right.
I have, anything that like God has done in my life, like it's not only for me to enjoy with my family, but it's like to share
Sure.
that message, to share that with other people. And
Mm.
someone may accept and may like come to faith in Jesus, which I would love, but that doesn't, them coming to faith or not doesn't determine whether or not I'm going to reach out and do what I can
There you go.
to help that person. You know what I mean? Whether it be
There
with,
you go.
if it's physical things, like if it's food that they need, or it could be
Right.
a number of different things, different needs that people have. So it's not about like just being, it's not about having an ulterior motive for why
Sure.
we want to help someone or why we want
Sure.
to be kind to someone,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately just like believing that every person is made in God's image, every person has value, therefore like every person is worthy of respect and dignity, and every person deserves to be treated in that way.
Right.
And like that's kind of what I believe. So
I like how you state that whether I believe it or not, you're gonna love me the way I am and accept me as a fellow brother. And I think that sounds just very refreshing and inviting, I have to say. And I also want to add, thank you for sharing that, Caleb. I do want to ask a follow-up question to that. One or two more follow-up questions, actually. And one is that I remember when I used to work at DePaul University, my former director who I worked for when I was in college would always say, Vin, how are you physically? How are you psychologically? How are you mentally? So then my question, and I would have to answer him all three ways. It's not just an how are you, it's like a how are, all that three. So then I want to ask you, how is your faith and God um, improve you physically, improve you psychologically and mentally for the viewers at home who may have similar faith or maybe a different faith? How can we connect on those three levels, and how has God provided you a bunch of growth in those three areas to be an example for us to kind of mirror, if I may ask?
that's a good question. There's a lot of parts to that question.
There it is.
I think in terms of physically, I mean, one thing that just recently happened, it was like the week before coronavirus kind of broke out in Panama. I fractured my ankle playing basketball.
Oh, dang.
And I was in like a boot for like 3 months. I was on crutches for like 3 or 4 months. It's literally like the worst injury I've ever had, like in terms of how long the recovery process. I'm still recovering, although thankfully like I'm able to run now. I haven't like played basketball at all since this happened, but I am like able to run, and thankfully like my kids that we've been going out like literally almost every day on their bikes and just doing a loop around like our neighborhood. It's like a 1 kilometer thing, and I'll like push the stroller with the baby in it, and sometimes another kid. So I'm like running with the bikes, pushing. So it's actually been really good to, and I was really thankful for a physical therapist that I was going to. She actually lives super close
Wow.
to where we live, and so I was going every week, and that was super helpful. I had never gone to physical therapy for that long and that consistent. It was like almost 2 months. Now I'm not doing it anymore, but it was interesting, like that process. So that's the physical thing. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that is connected to my faith at all, but I'm just thankful like that I'm healed. Like,
Yeah, I am too.
like I definitely believe that I'm healing, I should say. I believe God's able to do incredible miracles. Like God's able to heal someone in an instant. And so that's why when people are sick or things happen, like I'll pray, like I'll stop and I'll ask, hey, can I pray for you? And I'll just pray for God to do a miracle, whether it's like, healing their back or healing like if they have internal organs or whatever. Like I believe in the power of prayer and the power of God to heal people. But like I also believe and know that sometimes that process is slow, right? So in my case, like it wasn't like an instantaneous healing, but it was like the kind of normal healing process that God designed in our bodies. But it's interesting, when I was going to see that physical trainer, there was one time when she was saying some things, and I just almost like felt God speaking to me, like almost like that's the type of relationship that he wants with us. The type of relationship where like we go to him and we like allow him to kind of show us what we need to do, like allow him to like guide us in the process of our own growth and our own healing. So that could be not only physical but also like emotionally and also spiritually. Just this idea of like a guide or someone who's with us. And I believe the Bible would refer to this as like the Holy Spirit. So like for people that are following Jesus, like the Holy Spirit comes inside of you, and it's almost like this it brings like a new awareness and a new, like, I don't know, it's almost like this constant the Bible refers to it as a counselor or as like the Spirit of truth. So just this idea of like us connecting with God in a way that like is an ongoing relationship, and one that is like kind of like him showing us what we need to do. It's like, in my case with this physical therapist, like she did all these exercises I had never done before. I'm an athlete, like I played high school and college sport. Like so many different things I had never like done before, because it was just like working on different muscle groups and like different positions and different stretches and different things. And she was like, because she's done this for years, she was just like, like didn't even have to think about it. She was just like giving me all the things. So just like that ability, I guess, to like trust the process, but also trust that like, God's gonna, if we're listening to him. I guess that was a challenge I was feeling. It's just like, am I actually taking time to maybe just listen to what God may be wanting to speak to me, like what he may be wanting to tell me, and then like just understanding that like God wants to speak to us, like he wants to connect to us. So that was kind of what felt like God was speaking to me there, and it gives me more hunger to want to seek that out in terms of, okay, God, like what are the ways that you want to teach me so that I can have more healing, more restoration in my mind, in my spirit, in my body. And I believe that God will speak to us if we're open. Like God is not a respecter of persons, and I think he's always speaking to all of us, to every person. Sometimes we're not listening, or sometimes there may be things that are blocking that communication, but ultimately, like, I believe that God is constantly speaking, and I think his desire is to connect with us. Like God made us for a relationship with himself, but also with other people. And so that's something that he longs for. He wants to communicate and have an ongoing personal relationship with us.
Nice. I'm feeling it, man. I wanna add another question to that. Is, my parents always tell me, Caleb, that at home we are your parents. We bear you, you're our son. But when you go to school, the teacher is your parent. They teach you not only what they have to teach you or want to teach you in class, but they also teach you life skills and things to be a proper human being. Now, in Panama City, you are teaching at an international middle school. There's different kids, all kinds, different ages. This is more of a question I always ask, because I myself was a teacher in the Peace Corps and in Japan as well. And what is your proudest moment as a teacher, Caleb? If can you share that personal story, just one proudest moment you have with your student that you're like, man, this is my teacher moment. This is it.
Man, that's a really good question.
Probably have a lot. Teacher moments.
Yeah, I mean, I would just share one that was one of the first ones. You know, they always say like the first year of teaching is the worst, and I can totally attest to that. Like, because what I did in Kazakhstan was different from what I'm doing now. Like as a classroom teacher, you know, like we're having to come up with content basically, like, and tests and everything. You know what I mean? Like in a super structured way.
Yep.
So my first year, you know, we had just moved to the Panama. Like, it's really my first year teaching. I did not know what I was doing. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was like spending so much time like trying to prepare lessons and just like wrap my brain around it. So it was maybe like the first week of classes, and this one boy just like gave me an apple, you know, and he was like, "Hey, Mr. Pahl, like I just want you to know you're a really good teacher and like you're doing a really good job." You know, it's just like a simple comment, but like where I was at that time, I was in such a just like not feeling like I was doing good at all, overwhelmed and stressed. And so that's just a moment that I remember, and just that simple, kind word from a student, you know. And it's interesting the types of kids that will say those things and do those things. It's not always the kid that you would expect. So I'm just grateful for that, this one memory that I have.
Thank you, Caleb, for sharing that. I really appreciate that. I wanna. This is the last question I got for you is, where can people find you and connect with you? Are you on social media? Do you have an email? Something I can add on the description that people want to, after hearing this interview, they want to, you know, or you can provide it to me later. I can put it in the description, or you can say it here if you like, or.
Yeah, I mean, the social media that I use the most, like personally, is Twitter. So it's at Caleb Pahl. I mean, I'm honestly using it a lot for like school stuff since I'm an educator. Like I've learned so much and just connected with other educators around the world. But I do other things with my Twitter. But yeah, that's probably the main one. I mean, I can give my email too. I don't know if that's.
However you would like to
allow
people to connect, but Twitter is a good way. We'll do Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is a good way. That's one that I'm like the most connected with. So it's just my first and last name, Caleb Pahl. At Caleb Pahl. Yeah.
Awesome, my man. And would there be any last words you would like to share with the viewers before we conclude?
No, just thank you so much, Vinh, for your time, and thanks for asking the questions. Thanks for listening. It's cool to connect. Hopefully I can see you next time I'm in. You're in Chicago, right?
I am in Chicago. I'm waiting for you with open arms, man.
Okay, man. So next time we come up,
yep,
it'll be great to see you in person.
I get to see the kids and my niece and nephews, and I also want to take this time also to thank you for your time to come on board with me today and just kind of share your love for God, your faith, and how that has instilled you to be a better man, a better human being, to love all the brothers and sisters here on this earth. Our time is limited. The question is, how much love can we show and how much love can we share? So I really appreciate that. So this is a shout out to the viewers. So for you guys watching at home, I hope this story between me and conversation between me and Caleb has inspired you guys to look deep within and your spirituality, and hopefully make a good decision in your life to be a better person, a kinder person, a more compassionate person, and love everyone as much as you love yourself. So with that said, much love on 3. 1, 2, 3. Much love.
You like content like this, show some love by clicking the like button below, hit subscribe, and please comment. Good or bad comments, just keep it real, keep it original, and keep it coming. I promise you, this is not just for my own selfish vanity, but a way to really gauge where to improve content and keep spreading the love back to y'all. So by the power invoked in an average Joe like me, I will wish everybody a good day, great day. Be awesome, be well. Remember to be positive. Peace.